You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by QUATTRO Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. Today, we're going to have Zack Boothe on the call. Zack is a high-performance real estate coach, and he's going to really help us talk through driving for dollars and how we can use that to both wholesale single-family assets and acquire rentals, which is your pick of the litter, that can help grow your wealth. So this is A, generating cash, and B, generating wealth. And what's interesting is Zack is also going to walk us through some of the technology that is available today to help you really build this business out. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. And before we do, if you get any value out of this episode, please scroll down, leave us a 5-star review and a thoughtful comment. That really helps us grow the show. You can follow us on social media at Team QUATTRO Capital, one word, no special characters, or by visiting us at thequattroway.com. If you want to apply to be on the show, hit us up at thequattroway.com/podcast. And if you'd like to apply to be on the show, if you'd like to email us with a topic you'd like to hear on the show, hit us up at podcast@thequattroway.com. And now on to your scheduled production. All right. Real Estate Runway family, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sutton. We're powered by QUATTRO Capital on this episode. As always, I'm joined today with my friend, Zack Boothe. Zack is an expert real estate investor. He's a coach in the space and actually the host of Driving for Dollars Mastery. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today. Zack, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, before we get into this, take me through your background a little bit. How did you get into real estate? What's your experience? Like, what have you been doing, man?
Yeah. So, my entrepreneurial journey, my business started early, actually. So my dad cut me off financially at 16. He said, "You're a man now." And
that's what we call a hard landing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for it, though. He's a loving man. He's a good guy. He was raised very rough, though. He had a very rough childhood, and he wanted to prepare me for the world. And he wasn't very soft on me. And I'm so grateful for it, though, because what most people are trying to figure out in their late 20s, I was a teenager. And, so I was trying to play basketball, wanted to buy a truck, wanted to go on dates, wanted to do things, and I had to pay for it. He'd give me a couple $100 for food or a couple $100 a year for clothing. And he'd pay for my food and housing, and I did everything else. And so I started my first business when I was 17 years old, actually. So I started working actually at 11 for the family lawn mowing business. And, when he cut me off financially, it just wasn't enough to do that. So I had done everything from handcrafted cheese, worked at making cheese, finished carpentry, framing, taxidermy, all sorts of crazy stuff, right? To supplement income while I was going to school and everything else. But when I was 17, I started a window cleaning business. And I actually ran that business for a decade. And from the outside looking in, I was pretty successful. I had 3 trucks and 11 employees or so at one time. But in the beginning, when it was, I didn't have to pay for housing or someone else, it wasn't a big deal. But I remember the day my son was born. And I couldn't pay the bills, and I couldn't even focus and be grateful for my son because I didn't feel worthy of love. I didn't feel capable of being a dad, and it sucked. And so that was kind of the big aha. I was in my mid-20s, and I knew that I needed to fix something. I needed a different way. And so that's kind of what pushed me towards real estate. Is I was out washing windows and listening to podcasts like this and listening to books. And it's like, how do I fix the situation I'm in, because this is not where I want to be.
And we live in such an incredible time that you can be doing that while you're earning a living and running another business that you built from the ground up, right?
Yep.
You can have knowledge in your mind and in your ears, just being profited to all the time. Profited is probably a bad word, but, being taught all the time while you're doing other things in life, just so incredible. So that's fantastic. So what about real estate took you out of the window, cleaning business and made you say, I need to go put focus, energy, and effort here? And how did you start?
Yeah. So there was a couple things that I did that made me fall flat on my face. First off, right? Like it wasn't
scars and stripes, brother.
Yeah. It wasn't like I listened to a podcast, I started making millions, that wasn't my journey. My journey started off with, I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I knew I needed to build passive income. I bought a duplex and lived in one side and rented the other. And that was fantastic. I got a taste, and I was like, man, this is incredible. And I even had done that before I had had my son. But then I had all these other obstacles of debt to income ratio, down payments for my next ones. So buying more rentals then became a huge obstacle. So then I went and asked all my wealthy window clients if they'd give me money to flip a house. I tried flipping a house, and I was there swinging a hammer after washing windows at nights. And then on, Christmas Eve morning, I'm there, swinging away on the hammer, and I ended up losing $5,000. I was like, well, that sucked. I don't want to do that anymore. So it wasn't just perfect, but what ultimately blew my mind and gave me the way to get into real estate investing without having deep pockets, without having a rich uncle, without having a real estate license. I was like, how do I get into this stuff? Because I didn't want to go list houses. I didn't want to be a real estate agent. I wanted to be an investor. I wanted to build passive income. And so I had learned that you could find discounted opportunities, right? Do the hard work, do the marketing, do the sales, and you pass the opportunity on to another investor for a fee. And it was known as real estate syndication or real estate wholesaling. I find the opportunity and pass it on. I'm like, oh, I can work hard. I just built a $500,000 a year window cleaning business with 99% of my clients coming from my door-to-door sales. I know how to work. I can do this. And so that put me on this path to ultimately being able to find discounted opportunities. And I like to say I started cherry picking the best and sold the rest. And so I was getting lump sums of cash, was able to quit washing windows and cherry pick my favorites for rentals. So now I have the passive income and I have cash flow and a lot of money coming in. And it's awesome because I'm in the business of generating investments. And so I get to pick my better investments for myself. It's an incredible business.
Yeah. Don't tell your clients that, but that's a good.
Oh, they know. But there's enough meat on the bone. It makes sense for them. But a particular deal that makes sense for their portfolio may not make sense for mine. That's the beauty of this business is they win, I win, my title company wins, my attorney wins. Like it's all, we're all connected.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that. Cause you're actually marrying two single family strategies together, one being wholesaling and the other being buy and hold. And so how are you going about cultivating these leads, and then what is your criteria to say, gee, I think I'm going to buy this one with all the cash I've generated. So what you've done is brilliant. You've got a cash generation side of the business that you then strategically deploy when you have enough, right, to buy assets. So let's talk about that machine a little bit.
Yeah, well, part of it is awesome. And the beauty of it is taxes. So I can take a property that I have it under contract for a big discount and I can close on it and buy it. And I just went up in net worth and I can refinance out the cash. So it's not taxable. So on paper, I actually don't have to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a tax shield too. There's so many benefits to this. It's mind blowing. Like I had no idea the possibility and the options that I now have when I first started. To me, I just saw it as a way out of window cleaning, right? A way out of that job that I hate. But you asked a few questions about how do we find these deals, right? Let's start there. Cause how do we do it? Well, first off, what we need to understand is who we're looking for, right? There's a ton of sellers out there that will sell their houses, their apartment buildings. And most of them, 99% of them, they want to squeeze out as much as possible. They're not in a hurry. If the price is right, they'll sell. And that's not who we're looking for. We're looking for someone that has a property. They don't want to deal with it. It's a thorn in their side. It's a problem property. They know they're selling at a discount, but the convenience factor is what they're looking for. And I didn't believe this was possible. I was like, why would anyone ever do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. I would never do that. Why would someone do that? What happened that changed my mind and my belief in this is I was washing windows for a wealthy developer and cleaning this huge house, And I got chatting with him and I had been listening to this stuff on the podcast and I was skeptical, of course, because people are talking about selling, contracts, selling paper, not even buying the house and selling it, but just selling the opportunity for over $100,000, just the paper. And I'm like, there's no way. Right. So I'm talking to this developer, right? And find out he's a developer, find out he retired in his early 30s from being a civil engineer. And I was just blown away, right? Loved his story. And I was like, man, if I could just get 2 rentals this year, it would change my life. And he's like, oh, that's convenient. I got these 2 properties. I don't want to deal with them. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'll sell them to you at a really good deal. He's like, do you have $500,000? Could you get a loan? I was like, no, there's no way. And he's like, well, I can be the bank. I'll finance them. He's like, could you put 10% down? I'm like, $50,000? No, not $50,000. No way, right? He's like, well, how much could you put down? I was like, oh, 2,000. He's like, okay, that works. I was like, what? I never imagined that this would happen that morning that I woke up. But I found out that he had these properties. He was super wealthy, didn't want to deal with them. He hadn't collected rents in 4 months. There was, his property manager bailed on him. There was deferred maintenance, even though they were really nice properties. And I bought each of them for $250,000 each. They were worth much, much more than that. I actually ended up selling them to the tenants the next year for over $130,000 profit.
Wow.
And I didn't remodel them at all. All I did was go in and kick the tenants out, clean them, and rent them out to tenants with an option to buy. Both of them exercised the right the next year because I put it too low. Anyways, I lost some money there, but that's okay because I made over 6 figures, right? But this experience made me go, wow, there are people that will trade convenience over price. And what I've learned is the types of people that will trade convenience over price are tired landlords, people that inherit properties, people that have situations in their life where they want to move on, whether they're relocating for their jobs, divorce situations. And then the last one is they just have a property that's just neglected, has major physical signs or physical issues, repairs and all sorts of stuff that, if they sold it on the open market, the only person that's going to come in anyway is an investor with a cash offer because it doesn't qualify for the traditional financing. So I found if I could find those people, I could get a deal of a lifetime. I had it happen to me. I found a deal of a lifetime. Like I got lucky, right? And I was like, well, I've been hearing these podcasts say that you can get lucky all the time. Like, how do I get lucky every week? And that was that aha moment that I knew that I needed to find a strategic way to do it. And I'd be happy to break down how I do that if you want to go there.
I think that would be great. And maybe this leads into our 40-day real estate challenge you and I were chatting about a little bit. So take the reins away, but this is gold right here, guys. And this is, what he's talking about is how do you find the right individuals to get the right deals that you can either, flip the paper or buy the deal. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it didn't happen all of a sudden, right? Going back to the story, I found that opportunity was awesome, but I had been falling on my face for a while and I continued to fall on my face to find a way to be successful and consistently find deals. I ended up finding a coach, invested a ton of money, and it was totally worth it, right? And he gave me some action steps. And some of the action steps that I did, that they work, but they don't work as well as what I'm about to share. What he had me doing is going to city and county buildings and asking for free information that's public record. Some of those things that, it's not public record in every city across the country, but you can go to your city buildings and ask for a manager. A lot of times the secretaries will be like, that's private information. And you'd be like, no, can you double check with someone that's worked here longer? You got to fight with them, right? There's no skin in the game for them. But, I was getting the divorce records, anyone that filed a divorce, anyone that filed a probate, which is someone that inherited a property and they're doing the paperwork, right? If you don't know what probate is, people that file evictions, people that have code violations on their house, people that have tax delinquents on their property for at least 2 years. So those were records that I was pulling, and I was pulling that information. And not only could I get their names, I could get the property address and the mailing address on these sheets that I would get from them. And then I was sending letters and I was cold calling those people to see if they wanted to sell. And I got a few deals. I think the first 8 months of doing this, I made like $113,000. And all I was doing was finding those opportunities. And I had a purchase contract that allowed me to pass that contract on to a different investor. So I wasn't selling the house. I wasn't buying the house. I wasn't selling the house. I was selling paper. I was selling my purchase contract that I had with the seller. Right. So this is what I started doing. But as time went on, I started doing less and less deals. I started dealing with more competition. I would make 10, 15, 20 grand. And then I'd spend a bunch of money on marketing and I would, and then I would spend some on my family, and I wasn't getting rich. I wasn't having a surplus of opportunities and cash to buy rentals like I wanted. It's like, there's gotta be a better way, right? Like, what's the better way? How can I avoid the competition? How can I have a system or a process that, once I figure it out, that regardless of what happens, it'll always work and there'll never be competition. And I thought I came up with the idea, but it's been around forever. It's funny how that works. When we have a problem, all of a sudden we discover something new, and nothing's new, right? Nothing's new. I'm just a dummy that didn't go learn from people smarter than me. But what I learned is, people that have these houses that are a thorn in their side, they don't want to take care of them. There's physical signs of neglect, right? The property's a thorn in their side. So why would they go pick the weeds? Why would they mow the grass? if the shingles blow off, whatever. Right. And so when I would do the deals that I had done, I would notice they're the ugly ducklings on the street. Right. They have physical signs of neglect. So what I started doing is driving around and finding those houses that have physical signs of neglect in my areas. And then I'd write down the address. I'd look it up on county records, and I'd send, a piece of mail saying I'd like to buy their house, or call them. And I added like 70 of these properties, and I think my first deal off of 70 properties was around $9,000. And I'm like, ROI, okay, I spent about $10 and I made 9,000. I was like, okay, that works.
Pretty good.
I was like, I could get rich off this. And so, with time and with more processes, there's now technology where there's an app. It's called Deal Machine. So I essentially can drive through a neighborhood, and as I see ugly houses, I can literally just touch my phone and it'll upload all of the owner's information, property address, mailing address, phone numbers, emails, everything that I need into an Excel spreadsheet immediately. I can get other information of how long they've owned the house, what they owe, like roughly what they owe, roughly how much equity they have in the house, all of that stuff. And then right within the app itself as well, I can hit call, I can hit text, or I can start a marketing campaign through mail pieces, right? So there's technology now to really speed this stuff up, where in 1 hour of driving, I can find 50 to 100 of these properties and add it to my Excel spreadsheet. Changed everything to have tech like this. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm driving around and finding properties that are a thorn in people's sides, and see if they'd take, if they want a pawn shop for the house, or if they want to squeeze out as much as they can. They want to squeeze out as much as I can. I say, go get an agent. That's not what I do. Right. But if you want to be done quickly and want a cash offer, knowing that I'm going to make money, and if you're okay with that, just for the convenience factor, I'd be happy to work with you. And so that's what I started doing. And, it's changed my life, and it's changed a bunch of people's lives that believed in me. But there was a lot of people that doubted it and had fear. And because of lack of belief or hope that it was possible for them, they never took action. It was eating me up inside, that it's like, man, there's so much of opportunity as people just don't believe. And that's kind of why I did that challenge, is to show how real and how possible it is, with what you mentioned before.
Yeah. Wow. So, that's incredible, Zach. Now, please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you have questions on what I shared, I just shared a ton of information, right? The Deal Machine app, how I'm finding them. There's lots we could dive into, more intricate, like where to drive, why to drive those areas, and all that stuff. Or would you like me to talk about the 40-day challenge? Where would you like to go? What do you think your audience would want to hear?
Let's go into the 40-day challenge here, because I think, everyone likes getting motivated a little bit here. And, folks, we're going to give Zach's contact information here in the show notes. So scroll right on down. You can get to his website, get to his contact. And Zach has an abundance of knowledge he can share with you if you're interested in this potential strategy. So let's go into the 40-day challenge, and then we'll hit the Quattro questions here in a few minutes.
Love it. So I was up super late one night, right? And I was wrestling with this desire to help people. And I was like, man, the biggest obstacle with me helping people is they don't believe it's possible. They either think that I'm lying, and rightly so. There's a lot of guys that make claims, financial claims. They're full of crap. They're BS, right? As like, either they don't believe me, or they don't believe in themselves. They think that I'm different, or that the people that are successful real estate investors are too smart or something. I was like, I was raised, as a redneck. I never had money. I didn't grow up with money. I was a window cleaner. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like, if I could figure it out, anyone could. But people don't see that, right? They see my success now. They see that I know what I'm talking about now, and they think, oh, it's just easy for Zach, or, and so like, it's like, how could I get people to believe? Because without belief, no one will take action. And without action, you won't have results. And without results, you'll be stuck and you'll be frustrated. And I wanted to change that for people. And so I had watched Undercover Billionaire. And, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, Chad, or if the audience has heard of it, but it's an incredible show. I've only watched season 1. But the concept is, Glenn Stearns, I believe is his name. He's a billionaire. And he wants to show the American dream is alive and well. So he flies to a whole different part of the country, changes his name. He gets $100, an old beat up truck, and a smartphone. And he has to turn it into $1 million company, I think in like 60 days or something crazy.
Wow.
The dude's living in his truck. He's cleaning toilets, from like opportunities he finds on Craigslist. Like, I was so in love with it, with the hustle and desire to give back and to show people how possible it is to change your life. And it was a beautiful show, but I was like, man, I want to do something like this for people in real estate. So I came up with the idea that not only did I want to, show people, but I wanted to give them the action steps and see it live and get an over the shoulder look of what exactly it takes to get started in this business, right? We want to get into real estate investing, but what if you don't have money? What if you don't have a rich uncle? Like how can you do this? And so what I got to do my challenge, I kind of set the parameters. I had to fly across the country to where I had never been, right? Because I couldn't use my connections and my relationships here where I already had my business. I couldn't use my employees, right? I got a smartphone. I got my car. I got a place to live. I wasn't going to sleep homeless on the street like Glenn did. He's nuts. I'm not that crazy. And I got $1,000 to start my business, right? I would spend my $1,000 and, my food was covered and all that, right? Because I figured people that want to get into this, if you have $1,000 extra bucks you could spend on your business, you have a smartphone and a car, you can go out and do this, right? And so that was my parameters. That's what I had. And my goal was to make the average American income in cash within the 40 days. And,
Wow.
and so I got $1,000 and the goal was to go drive around, find ugly houses, find someone who's willing to sell and pass those opportunities on to another investor for assignment fees. And, that was a challenge. It's why I did it. I really wanted to help people. So it's free, right? Like, this is free stuff I'm giving you guys. I suffered. I cold called. There was one 4-day stint that I cold called from the time I woke up, the time I went to bed. I never turned off the dialer. I was literally cooking with the dialer going on my computer while I was cooking, right? It sucked. It was horrible. It was horrible for me to do. I didn't need to do it. I don't need to cold call. I don't need to go on appointments. I have a team now, but I wanted to show what it looks like to bootstrap the business, to go out and change your guys' lives. So the content's free and we can share how you guys can find it. But, that's what that 40-day challenge was.
That is incredible, Zach. I mean, what a way to literally put your money where your mouth is and your experience. So since we're all in state listening to that story, where can we find that 40-day challenge?
Yeah, so you guys can go to my YouTube channel, Real Estate Investing with Zack Boothe, and go to playlists and find it. There's a quick link though. It's DFD, stands for Driving $4, dfdchallenge.com. You can go there and put in your email and I'll send it to you. So there's the quick link where you just go to the YouTube channel. If you don't want to give me your email, that's fine. I get it. So those two places.
Yeah, perfect. Wow. That's an incredible mic drop moment right there, Zach. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump over to the Quattro questions real quick before we let you go. And we'll make sure, folks, if you stay to the end of the episode, we'll grab Zach's contact information and that link that he just gave you, DFD. Was it dfd.com/challenge?
Yeah, dfdchallenge.com.
dfdchallenge.com. That will be down in the show notes for your clicking convenience. So, you ready, Zach?
Yep.
All right. First question. What is your superpower in life or business, and how does it serve you well?
I feel like every time I've set goals or put my mind towards something, I find a way to make it happen. I believe that most of the success in our lives is being resourceful, not having resources. And so I think that's my superpower. I think that the 40-day challenge and how I make money and how I got into real estate investing is an example of that.
I think you're right. You're right. And so take that coin and flip it on its edge. Let's go the other direction. Give me some dirt. What is your biggest failure in life or business, and what did you learn from it?
I believe I fail constantly. Like, there's been some big moments where I definitely realized that I had been making big mistakes, and I'm like, holy crap, like that was an expensive one. But I believe that if you're not looking back a year ago, 2 years ago, and 5 years ago and going, holy crap, if I'd have known what I know now, holy crap, I'd be so much further ahead. If you're not saying that on a constant basis, you're not growing. So I can give you like just one. I'll give you one, okay? This one's funny though. This is like an exact example of doing stupid crap that I didn't know I was doing wrong. So when I started doing driving for dollars, right? I was driving around finding those ugly houses and I did my first deal. Well, then I went and hired a bunch of people and paid them 20% of the money that I made to go out and add the addresses and give me the addresses. I do the marketing. And 20%, okay? In the first 6 months, my business blew up. I paid over $100,000 in profit shares to people that were driving for me. And I eventually tested some different things and I started paying only one driver instead of multiple drivers. I started paying them $20 an hour, which was a good rate. And I was paying them $100 bonus for every deal we closed. Plus I was paying them an extra $100 a week for gas if he hit the goals and the metrics that we had set for him. And that payment structure compared to 20% in 6 months, I overpaid my drivers by over $60,000. Over $60,000 that I threw away because I didn't have the right compensation structure. And so I can look back over and over. I can have another one. I had a student ask me, Zach, when you send your postcards out to this list, and you taught us to put this tracking number on here. When I tested it, I'm getting the calls forwarded to my phone, but I'm not getting the text messages forwarded to my phone. How do you set that up? And I thought, oh man, I've been doing this for a year and a half, and I haven't received a text message. So I go back to the platform, that I bought the phone numbers from, where I could see the text messages. I had hundreds of leads, guys, hundreds of leads. We went back and, cultivated over 200 grand out of those leads, but I promise you, I lost that much more. Right. And so if you're not constantly growing and looking back and going, man, I'm an idiot. I was an idiot. I'm still probably an idiot and I just don't know it right now. Like then you're probably really dumb, right? You're really struggling, I promise.
That's super wise. And the brilliance is realizing that you have those gaps and just knowing there's always a hole to plug somewhere, especially in your lead funnel, right? Yeah. It's think of it as a bunch of pipes put together with tape around them. And if you don't go reinforce every one of those joints, you're losing money somewhere. It's just every business has this problem, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So fantastic, Zach. And we're going to do something a little interesting here. We're going to combine together the next two questions because I really like the way you kind of approach this one. The first question is, what are your philanthropic interests? Because a lot of times, at Quattro, we're all about philanthropy, and a lot of times our listeners will give on your behalf. But, additionally, we were talking about providing some free content to the listeners. So you and I kind of merge those together in a conversation of where your heart really is. Share that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I believe in giving back. I believe in contributing, but I also believe in doing things that are more impactful than just giving, openly with no thought of, is this really serving people or hurting people? For example, if someone wins a lottery, a ton of free money, what's the percentage of people that file bankruptcy within 3 years? It's very high. It's terrifyingly high. They're actually in a worse position because of winning the lottery than they would have been if it never had happened to them. So think about that. Giving money to someone doesn't always solve their problems. I served a Christian mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I speak Portuguese. I was there for a couple of years. I totally believe in giving back and serving. I believe in those principles. And, this whole 40-day challenge and even coaching was 100% on the concept of giving back. So yeah, I coach and yeah, people pay me for my time if they want to work with me and want my one-on-one support and so forth. But I didn't start coaching with that intention. I accidentally became a coach, actually, and kind of explained to answer this question. So I had read a self-help journal, and it helps you create 3 big goals. It's called Living Your Best Year Ever. And one of my big goals was a financial goal. I wanted to go from $500,000 in income to $1 million in income in my business. And I was pinching myself going from a window cleaner to making $500,000, right? Like I was like, holy moly, I'll never make more money than this. This is stupid, right? But I had set this goal through the help of this book. The first 100 pages, you go through this book and this, workbook, and then the rest of it's a journal, right? And the other thing that it said, once you create these 3 big goals, is who you have to be, who you have to become, and what you have to do. And one of the things that I had to do is I had to give what I wanted to receive. So if I wanted more love, I had to find ways to give more love than I wanted to receive. And if I wanted to receive value, I had to give value, right? So I was like, well, I just had a goal of $1 million. Dang it. I wish I'd have known that I would have had to give it away, So it trapped me that I had to now give away $1 million. And I was like, well, first of all, I don't know that will serve anyone just to give away $1 million. I give money. Don't get me wrong. I believe in giving money, but in certain places. For example, I retired my wife's grandmother that's 80 that was still working, right? But that's what she needed. That was really what was going to bless her life. She's worked her whole life to serve her family, take care of them. So in that situation, I feel differently. But if I was just going to go give away $1 million to random people, I don't know that would help them. Plus, I didn't have the $1 million. That was the other issue I had, the other dilemma. And so I talked to my wife, and my wife has the same heart that I do, and she wants to give back and do great things. And she actually came up with the idea, well, why don't you find 10 people and teach them what you've been putting in place for us? You could easily put $1 million in 10 people's pockets with this system. All right, that's awesome. I love it. Let's do it. And so I went and found 10 people. I actually called my original coach, told him my goal, and he said, can you help me? I have no idea what I'm doing. He said, okay, first rule, you never coach anyone for free. So you're going to charge 10 people $2,000. You're going to give it all to me, and I'm going to teach you how to coach. And I'm like, deal, let's do it. So I love this guy. His name's Tom Kroll. I love him to death. So that's what we did, right? And I brought on these original 10 students. And, I told you that story, that mistake of, the tracking phone number on the postcards. So one of my students, he asked me that question. I'm like, oh my gosh. But because of what I taught and what I learned from what I taught and the questions that I got back, I got more feedback on my systems and processes than I ever could have got just trying to figure it out myself with my limited brain power. And it blessed my life tremendously. I did over $1.2 million that year. I'm going to get emotional. But more importantly than the money I made was the joy that I got out of it, the purpose, the mission, the whole point of all of it. And it's become a company. Yes, I have employees. I have a team. I have marketing spend. I have everything that goes along with it, and we create a ton of free content. So much of what I make goes back to doing the 40-day challenge and my podcast, my YouTube channel, and my 20 TikToks a week, guys. I mean, I spend hours and hours helping and giving you guys that free value and information. But, for me, I believe that it's become a huge part of my life and my mission and my purpose and the philanthropy and why I did that 40-day challenge is to give that permission and hope to people, even if they don't want my services as a coach. If they can go out and take action and believe that it's possible and it changed their lives, that's why I did it. I've gotten so many messages on social media. Hey, I saw your podcast. I went and took action. I watched the 40-day challenge. I did my first deal. Thank you. Now I want to be your student or whatever, and it's been incredible. It really has. I have hundreds and hundreds of stories from, not just people that watch my content, but students that have said, you've changed my life. I can't believe this. And, I had one of my students, they gave me the honor and asked me to officiate their wedding. He was a fireman and was struggling and fighting for custody for his daughter. And and he needed help. He needed a coach. And, I was there during his wedding and he had full custody of his daughter. And I watched the daddy-daughter dance. I was just crying. I was just emotional because I knew I had a part in that. So to me, that's why I do this. That's why I'm on this podcast. It's why I coach. It's, real estate changed my life. It made me a ton of money. It's an incredible business. But this business of helping people get started in coaching or in real estate investing, to me, that's my mission and my purpose in life. It's what I was born for.
That is just incredible. And if your mic wasn't attached to that boom, I'd say pick it up and drop it because that was a hell of a mic drop moment right there, Zach. So thank you for sharing your heart right there, man. That's awesome. How can our listeners best get in touch with you, to reach out for your coaching or just to chat with you about your success and how, how they can do it too?
So you guys can find me anywhere. You can just Google my name, Zack Boothe. I'll pop up. You'll find me. My website, though, is drivingfordollarsmastery.com, drivingfordollarsmastery.com. In there, I have some free trainings. I have access to some of my stuff, but you also will have a link in there that you can schedule a time on my calendar to talk to. I actually take a bunch of those calls and my team that helps me. And we can, the whole purpose is to break down where you're at, what your goals are, what's really holding you back, and ultimately what's possible. And we do these calls for free because some of you may want my support as a coach. We can talk about that if that's the case. If not, that's okay too. But more than anything is we want to get on that call and see if we can help you. So book a call if you'd like to and schedule a time that works for you. And we can talk on the phone if you want.
Fantastic. Zach, thank you so much for coming on the call, sharing your heart, sharing your story, sharing, your claim to fame here, which is something I think our listeners will so appreciate you doing. And, really look forward to having you back on the show sometime here in the near future. So thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. Until next time, over and out. Okay, we're stopped recording apparently, but it's saying something's wrong. Okay. Well, let's, I guess, are you fully uploaded yet?
Uploading 99%.
I saw the same thing. Okay. Well, I'm going to refresh this thing and it should be fine. If I'll shoot you a note, let me refresh this and see if it all uploaded. And if you don't hear from me, it's fine. If you do, I'll send you the link to upload it. But sometimes it gets stuck like this.
Okay. Really just, you got my cell. I called you. So just text me. Yeah. Just text me and say, hey, you're good to close your computer. I won't close it. I got a couple of those calls that I mentioned they get booked on my calendar. So I got to go do a few of those.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on the episode.
Of course,
I really
thanks
appreciate
for having me.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. That was an incredible episode with Mr. Zack Boothe, high performance real estate coach and Driving for Dollars Master. Head on over to his website. Check out some of the free stuff he's got for you. Check out his YouTube channel. I love that this guy gives away his knowledge for free and can help you build this business for yourself if it's something that you're into. So build a stream of cash, build a stream of cash flow. Zack is your man. Now, if you got any value out of this episode, please leave us that 5-star review and thoughtful comment. Really helps us grow the show. And if you'd love to apply to be on the show, we'd love to have you on here. Please visit us at thequattroway.com/podcast. Until next time, folks, this has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. Over and out.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway Podcast.